Good morning, fathers of daughters. This is Ephraim B. Martin. I am 58 years of age, and welcome to Grow Dad YouTube channel. All fathers are welcome, regardless of your ethnic group and background. All right, fathers, we got another live stream today. It's going to be a good one, as all my live streams are good live streams. Fathers of daughters. What we're going to be covering today is we are going to be talking about fathers of daughters, social media engineering, and K-12 education. You may be asking the question, what does social media engineering and K-12 education have in common? Actually, a lot. I'm a former I'm a former teacher, restorative justice coordinator, and dean of students. I worked in K-12 education in Denver Public Schools from 2003 to 2014. So I had about 10, 11 years of experience of working in Denver Public Schools and worked with all children from all socioeconomic backgrounds, parents from all socioeconomic backgrounds, and got a lot of good experience in. So I'm excited about today and just want to share with you as Grow That YouTube channel. My purpose is to help all fathers, regardless of their ethnic group and culture, understand our sense of urgency that we must have in order to build sustainable, long-term relationships with our daughters. So fathers, when we talk about social media engineering in K-12 education, what does that look like and exactly what am I saying with that? We already know that social media is the driving force for today's children. Gen Z, who are still in high school. We have Gen Alpha, who are just getting to high school. And Gen Bravo will start being born next year in 2025. So Gen Alpha kids are middle school and they're getting to high school this year. They were born in 2010. It is now 2024. So the older Gen Alpha children are now freshmen in high school. Gen Z, we're at the tail end of Gen Z older kids. They are 15, 16, 17, and 18 years of age. I have 4 adult daughters. I have 2 millennials, and I have 2 Gen Z children. So when we talk about K-12 education is very broad, and it covers a lot of different things when it comes to social media. K-12 education is all about social media. That's how K-12 education communicates with parents. That's how they communicate with kids. In last week's live stream, I talked about social media engineering and the criminal justice system. I also included that video. It's in the description as well. All videos that I use are for educational and instructional and informational purposes through instruction, okay? All videos that I use are fair use videos, and I give all the videos credit for where they originate from. So what I do with these videos is, because we're visual human beings, is what I like to do is, as I'm discussing the educational and informational perspective, give visuals to back up what exactly I'm referring to, as well as research, studies, and solutions, okay? So parents, fathers of daughters, when I'm talking about K-12 education, I'm talking about everything that's involved in social media engineering. I've got some really, really good videos today that I want to share with you, fathers of daughters, and they're pretty powerful. I want to start off the first video with an introduction to K-12 education support services, and pretty much any district in any state within the United States, all school districts, any district, they have media. They have a central office in which the media is authorized to come from, and those who participate within the district in that media have to follow certain guidelines. They just can't do whatever they want. They just can't open up a Facebook page or a TikTok or Snapchat or any social media pages or any social media platforms without the authorization of that specific school district due to policies and procedures within that school district. Because if adults are allowed to do that, whether they're teachers or administrators, that's when you're going to run into problems, privacy issues. All children have privacy. And a lot of times we're not allowed to put children on video unless it's through the permission of their parents to use them in videos for educational and instructional purposes. So when I was a dean of students, teacher, and restorative justice coordinator, there were situations that came up through social media at school where a lot of kids got into trouble, where some teachers got into trouble because they were doing things without permission. So it's very important, fathers of daughters, for us to make sure that we are connected to the schools in the primary grades, middle school, and high school where our children are attending. More than likely, in the primary grades, when you're receiving back to school nights or meetings with the teachers, you're going to be receiving it through media, social media platforms, because that's how everything's done today. Everything is done through the digital web. The days of writing it down, I'm not saying it's over, but I'm old school, so I still carry a tablet wherever I go, and I write stuff down. But everything today, because of convenience, is used through the digital web. Our cell phones, our smartphones, our tablets, our watches, whatever it is that is made to make humans more comfortable, what we're wearing on our person is how we're going to be communicating and how we're going to be contacted by the schools, by the school districts, Board of Education, you name it. Everything's going to be done through the digital web. So fathers, I'm very excited about the growth of Grow Dad YouTube channel. It's grown organically. I'm at almost about 800 subscribers, and it's been a good journey, and I'm very excited about it. I continue to grind. I continue to move forward. I would love to have more fathers participate, make comments, and I've got a lot of other stuff coming down the road. Once we get towards the summer, when it gets a little bit warmer, I'm going to be doing things a little bit different on Grow Dad YouTube channel. So feel free, fathers, to participate. Feel free to comment. Feel free to ask questions, and I will answer all your questions. This is my 29th live stream, so I'm very excited about that. I'm making waves, y'all. I'm really making waves. Excited about it. I'm going to branch off and do some other things. I've been contacted and asked to do some other things with Grow Dad YouTube channel. So I'm excited for those possibilities. Once again, I've written a book, Daddy's Girls, which is available at Amazon.com. You could find that link through my YouTube channel at Grow Dad YouTube channel. So fathers, let's get started. And like I said, this first video is about 5 minutes. The video after that is we're going to be discussing cyberbullying through K-12 education, what that looks like. We're going to be looking at some statistics on that as well. And like I said, what I'm here to do is inform fathers through education, through informational and instructional purposes. That's how I get down, y'all. That's what I'm good at. That's what I do. And I'm happy to serve fathers of all daughters, okay? So we're going to get this started, fathers, and let's do what we do. Okay, let me get this. Okay.
We have built this amazing community that we call our membership program that school communicators from around the world join to get inspiration, support, training, resources, guides, really all the tools that they need to be successful as a social media storyteller for their school district. Now, we provide the support and the tools to do the job, like how do you do this on Facebook or Instagram and Twitter? But we also support the person in the role. Oftentimes, school communicators are on an island. They're the only one in their school district with that job, and it can be very lonely. So what we've built is truly this community of folks that come together to support one another, to answer people's questions when a struggle comes up, maybe to urge them on or give them the resources they need. I mean, we're on Zooms, we're talking to each other, we're sharing. And like I said, that happens each week. But now with our resources, oh my goodness, any topic you want to know about LinkedIn, you want to learn about Instagram Reels, you want to learn tricks about Instagram stories, you want to find out how to train your ambassadors, you want to see how you can involve students in your storytelling process, right? In a resource guide, you can search for those things. And at a moment's notice, you can have a training session, a download, a blog article, a video tip. You can have all of those things right there to help you on what you need to tackle next for your school district. I'm so proud of what we've been able to build for these storytellers that work in schools around the world. I can't believe all the value that's provided. Schools are all about learning and growing. And so professional development in your role as a communicator should be no different. The great thing about this program is you're not paying for them to be gone, right? From school. They can do it all from their desk. They're not experiencing hotel bills or those things, which they should be entitled to those kind of conferences as well. But this is something that can really meet them where they're at. And basically the investment in the membership program, I can't promise it, but if you can attract or retain just one student in your school or district, it's a tenfold payback of what they would be investing in for this membership. Not to diminish the fact that just helping save their sanity and give them that boost of confidence, that inspiration, making it much easier to tackle all the things they need to tackle in their job without it weighing so heavy that maybe they're leaving the profession, because there are people that do that. So I think this can be a solid investment in the skills and that work-life harmony that those folks need. To me, it's a no-brainer to be able to make that investment for them. We actually just had one of our members share they attracted a really great teacher from a surrounding district because of social media, because she saw that, hey, this is a kind of school that I want to work at. And right now, schools are having a tough time filling paraprofessional roles, bus drivers, teachers, administrators, all of those things. So anything that you can do to shine a light on how your school stands out, how your school deals with students, innovative ways that you are teaching students, that's a really powerful marketing method for, those students, those families, and those staff members to want to join and be a part of your school district. I think what social media does is it gives your community a sense of belonging, a sense of being included every single day on what those tax dollars are being spent on. Or we serve private schools, we serve charter schools, we serve independent schools. One of our members was saying, the cost of our membership right now is $795 for a whole year. She's like, $800. She's like, the value I've gotten out of this has been 8 million, which I don't think maybe it's been 8 million. It's going to tenfold the impact in your district by the stories they're able to tell, by those connections they're able to build, by the parent, the community, the student, the staff engagement that you can see, that payback is real, and it is felt with every single member that really takes part and takes hold of what's available in this program.
Okay, fathers, that was the first video of, we have 5 videos today. And that was the first video. What are your thoughts? What I appreciate about that video is just the engagement of individual schools. I know when I was the dean of students, I don't think I've ever met a child at the middle school or high school level that didn't have a smartphone. And that's how they communicate. And when you're living on a smartphone 24 hours a day, pretty much, I mean, it's a live computer all day, every day. So school districts around the country in the United States are trying and have figured out the best way for them to communicate is through the digital web. And we can't assume that everybody, even in 2024, we can't assume that everybody still, has access to the internet, because a lot of communities still don't have access to the internet, or their access might be limited. So we can't assume that. I know in the district where I worked, there were a lot of parents that couldn't afford the internet. But if you have a smartphone, you have the internet on your phone. So although they may not have had the internet at home, they have a smartphone. So that was the way to communicate with so many of these parents. And every school at junior high, most schools at the junior high level have computer labs. Not all, but most. All high schools have computer labs to where students can go and use social media for free and communicate for free. So that's a good thing. That's not a bad thing. I know my experience as the dean of students, we had to work hard. We had to work very hard when it came to communicating with kids and, their teachers, and trying to fill that gap in between discipline and things of that nature. So that was quite a challenge as well, because so many kids, they just communicate through their cell phones, their smartphones. And it's crazy it's like that, but that's how a lot of these kids are programmed. One of the things I learned as a dean of students was to always make sure every student that I came into contact with, that I met that child where they were at, not where I wanted them to be. But I've been very successful with any child I've come into contact with. And the reason I've been successful is because I meet a child where they're at, not where I want them to be. And I just believe if you're going to work with kids as an adult, you have to meet children where they're at, not where you want them to be. Otherwise, it's just not going to work. Kids shut down. And if you don't meet them where they're at, you're never going to be able to build relationships with them. Kids, to me, are way easier than adults. I don't like most adults. I just don't. Kids are way easier for me. A lot of adults don't like kids. I don't like adults. It's very easy for me to work with children because I have hope with children. Most adults are set in their ways. There's always some levels of foolishness and nonsense that you got to get through. And it's just, I'm good with kids. So you give me children, I'm good. I'd much rather be around children. I feel safer around children, and I know I don't have to do it no bullshit when I'm dealing with kids, So working with children for me is way easier than working with adults, and I prefer it that way. Okay, this next video is going to be talking about cyberbullying. It's a great video. This gentleman that I'm going to share this video with you. Patrick Bit David, he has a company called Valuetainment. And I've been following Patrick Bit David for about 5 years. And this man I don't promote a lot of people on YouTube because there's just so much foolishness and nonsense on YouTube. But Patrick Bit David of Valuetainment, this man is a genius. He's got an incredible story coming here as an immigrant with his parents. And like I said, I've been following him for about 5 years. And he covers all sectors: financial literacy, economics, politics. He covers everything. And he's a fair man, but he's about his family. And that's what I appreciate about this gentleman. I mean, he's 100% about his family. He's got 2 boys and 2 girls. He's got younger kids. And he's just a good dude. He's really a good dude. And I'm just glad that I found him 5 years ago. And I've been watching him and just seeing how he moves. And he's an amazing man. I'm beyond impressed with this gentleman, Patrick Big David. So here's the next video, y'all. Let me get it together. Let's see. Okay. This next video, Patrick Bit David is covering cyberbullying.
Have a serious conversation with you, and I want you to consider by the time this video is done, first watch the whole thing, to show it to your kids and watch it with them and ask them, what do you think about this content? Because if you don't, high likelihood some of these things may be happening to them and they're uncomfortable talking to you about it. So as a father of 4 kids, I show clips like this and I talk to my kids about things like this because I'm a concerned parent, and I think you are as well. So 3 stories I want to tell you about, and then we'll get into this whole concept of cyberbullying and what different aspects it looks like. One, I watched a movie that I think every parent in the world needs to watch. It's called Disconnect. It's disturbing. Jason Bateman's in this movie. It's a story about a husband and wife, busy, they're doing their thing, and their son is in school. He really liked this girl. 2 of the boys in school find out he really likes this girl. They end up creating a fake Facebook profile. It's a 10-year-old movie, so it's like Facebook back then. The Facebook profile they create with the girl they like, they steal the picture from her, put it on this account. They befriend everybody that he befriends. Then they text him, DM him on Facebook, and they say, hey, please don't tell anybody. Between you and I really like you. I'm embarrassed. Don't tell anyone. And he's like, oh my God, the girl I like is messaging me. That's insane. And they go back and forth. And then eventually these 2 bullies say, hey, I really want to see you nude, and I'll send you my picture if you send me yours. These boys take a picture from whatever other girl online. They send it to him. He's like, oh my God, I just got her private, picture that was sent to me. Let me send mine. He sends his. When he sends his, next day he goes to school. Guess what he realizes? Everyone's laughing at him, pointing fingers at him. Can you imagine how humiliating that is? This kid realizes these 2 bullies faked it. That girl never had any interest in him. They did that to mock him, troll him, almost destroy him. This kid goes home. It's the most disturbing scene of the movie. He goes home, goes to his room, turns on heavy metal music, decides to hang himself. Music is so loud. Sister walks in, saves him, doesn't die, turns into an escapade. The father's like, what happened? Trying to go after the other kid's father. And it's such a big feud. Must-watch movie. Disturbing, but you have to know it because it's truth and it's happening. Why is it truth that this is happening? An 18-year-old boy committed suicide because his 17-year-old girlfriend was texting him saying, kill yourself, goes back in the car. She gets 2.5 years, ends up only doing, I think, 11 months and 12 days. Then the story comes out last week from New Jersey where these boys took 30 pictures of girls and they created deep fakes of them in nudes, humiliation. By the way, as a person running an insurance company and a consulting firm and a company myself, I'm getting these stories stories now firsthand from parents that are completely disturbed saying, Pat, what the hell do I do? It's happening. The only reason these types of things are happening, it's because parents are uncomfortable talking about these types of issues because you're already so busy. But as a parent, I know this is important to you. We must do a better job talking about it. That's why I'm creating this video. We're going to break this down on what different types of cyberbullying is going on today so we can make sure to the best of our abilities that our kids are protected. Okay, so if you get value out of this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. By the way, while we took this break, I had to call my son because I want to share a story with you and a picture that I have on the cover of my iPad that I think will tell you a lot about our kids needing today's content. But I'll tell you that at the end. Stick around. So let's get right into it. These are the different types of bullying, cyberbullying there is today. Number one, exclusion. This is when somebody intentionally leaves someone else out of an online group or message thread. Believe it or not, kids, that bothers them, but it happens today. Number two, harassment occurs when cyberbully sends persistent and hurtful online messages to a victim. These messages can contain threats. Hence, this girl we're talking about, Michelle Carter, texting her boyfriend to commit suicide. That's insane. But guess what? The kid ended up killing himself at 18 years old, even though his girlfriend was only 17 years old. That's harassment. Cyberstalking. This is when a cyberbully monitors a victim's online presence closely. This bully can also make false accusations and threats against the victim and their loved ones. Additionally, cyberstalking can extend to the real world, becoming quite serious and dangerous for the victim and potentially their loved ones. Doxing. This is when a cyberbully maliciously shares personal data about an individual online that wouldn't normally be publicly known to harass or intimidate a victim. This could include personal information such as someone's home address, school, where they attend, social security, any of that stuff. This has happened to people I know regularly. This is tough. Next, frapping. This is when a cyberbully uses a victim's social media accounts to post inappropriate content with the victim's name attached to it. In this scenario, the victim is tied to online content that can damage their reputation. Trolling. This is when cyberbullies troll a victim by posting derogatory comments about them online in the hopes of hurting these individuals. Next, flaming. This is when a bully starts posting things or insults and profanity to a victim, hoping to get a reaction back from the individual they're offending. Next, denigration. This is when a cyberbully denigrates a victim by sending, posting, or publishing false information online about the individual. Denigration usually consists of cruel rumors and gossip about a victim. Next, impersonation. Cyberbully can impersonate a victim by posting comments on social media and chat rooms in the individual's name. Doing so can cause a victim to experience backlash from others based on the bully's online comments. Trickery. This is when a bully can befriend a victim to the point where the targeted individual feels comfortable sharing secrets and other sensitive information, including pictures. The bully then publicly releases the information the victim shares to humiliate, shame, or otherwise harm them. Next, fake profiles. Cyberbullies can set up fake online profiles on behalf of victims. They can use these profiles to publish false content in the victim's names without the victim's consent. And last but not least, this next one is about the movie I talked about, Disconnect. It's called catfishing. Is when a cyberbully exploits a victim's emotion. A cyberbully attempting to catfish a victim creates a fake online identity and pretends to be someone else. The bully can then engage with a victim using this false identity and build an online romance. Over time, the victim may trust the online user and share sensitive information with the individual. Then the cyberbully can share this information to embarrass the victim and damage their reputation or expose them. So now, if you're watching this, you're like, no, didn't happen to me. Okay, some of these things, there's nothing you can do about it. When you start creating content, you get trolled. You can't help it. There's fake profiles. There's people that create fake profiles to get money out of crypto. About 3 years ago, a guy created a fake website of me doing Bitcoin calls, and I called him and I acted like I'm interested and I recorded the whole thing and I put it online until eventually he had to cancel it. And I asked him, I said, so let me ask you a question. How much is Mr. David involved in Bitcoin? Oh, I can't disclose my client's information, but very. How big is his portfolio position? And he's talking to me and he's asking for money from me, realizing he's full of shit. But these types of things happen. Some of the things as parents, all we can do is tell them, yeah, this could happen to you, but it's okay. Some of the things we have to tell them what not to fall for, that's a trap, that's a bigger trap. Some is unavoidable, some is avoidable that we need to have that conversation with our kids. So now, dangers of online bullying. Number one, online bullying can lead to emotional distress and mental health problems. Online bullying can damage relationships. It can lead to physical harm. And online bullying can damage a child's reputation, especially when they're younger. It's very, very important. They're trying to make friends. They're kind of figuring out their own identity. We got to protect that as parents. So Gab, which is a phone company, identified 5 specific problems that contribute to online bullying. And here's what they said on their website. Problem number 1 is screen time. Excessive screen time can cause setbacks in children's health and their social and emotional development. This can hinder their ability to engage in typical everyday activities that enable them to learn about the world and themselves. Problem number 2, social media. Social media is the most common place where kids are exposed to mature content, bad language, extreme ideas, and damaging interactions. Kids can even fall for perpetrators, cyberbullies, and sex crimes. Problem number 3, explicit content. I don't need to explain to you what that means. It's explicit content, porn, pictures, all these other things. Number 4 is actual cyberbullying. 1 in 3 kids is a victim of cyberbullying. 50% of teens witness cyberbullying regularly. 50% of teens. Problem number 5, sex crimes. Watch the statistics. 1 in 5 youth received a sexual solicitation online. 1 in 5. 20%? That's not a small number, guys. That means if you have 5 kids, 1 of them got a message. That's a lot of kids getting messages, right? 82% of online sex crimes start with social media. 82%. Let me give you some more shocking stats about this online bullying that's taking place. So watch this. 95% of teens in the U.S. are online. 95% are online. Girls are more likely than boys to be both victims and perpetrators of cyberbullying. Listen to what it says. Victim, it's being done to you, and perpetrators, doing it to somebody else. Girls more than boys. Statistics, 15% teen girls versus 6% boys. It's important to talk to your girls about it because they do it more than boys do. Instagram is the #1 platform where this takes place. And last but not least, you know what's the most disturbing stat here? Only 1 in 10 teen victims will inform a parent or trusted adult of their abuse. 1 in 10, not 7 in 10, not 5, not 3, 1. Only 10% are willing to tell somebody about it, meaning they keep it to themselves. Let's continue. We got to take a little bit of a deeper dive with stats. Take a look at this. Annual number of incoming complaints about internet crimes on the internet have increased from 2000 to 22. Watch these numbers here. It's in the thousand. Look at 2000, not a lot. 2010 skyrockets. Then if you look at 2020, 2021, 2022, look how it skyrockets. Why? People have more time on their hands, and guess what happens? More opportunities to bully others. Look at the next one here. Percentage of internet users in selected countries who have experienced cyber crime in 2022. Number 1 is India, 69%, 68%. Look what number 2 is, US. Then Australia. The global average is 39. We're at 49. Then you got New Zealand, France, UK, Germany, Japan. This next one to me is the most interesting one. Share of children owning a smartphone in the US in 2015, 2019, and 2021 by age. If you look at the bottom, the blue is 2015, the black is 2019, and the gray is 2021. Look at the percentage. 8 years old. It's from 11%, 19% to today, it's 31%. We went from 11% in 2015 to 31% in 2021. I don't even know what the number is in 2023. What do you think it is? More than 31%. Let's go to 11 years old. In 2015, the average 11-year-old, maybe 30% of them had a phone. Then it went to 32% in 2019. Look at 2021, 53%. By the way, if some parents are like, well, what's wrong with them having a phone? It's not a phone. It's a smartphone that's the problem with internet. If you have a phone that you can just communicate with them and that's it. There's no social, there's no Instagram, there's nothing else. It's a different story. Continue. Let's go to 14 years old. It went from 59% to 81% to 91%. If you chose to watch this video with your kids or your teenagers, kids, teens, you're probably not going to like me right now because your mommy and daddy are making you watch this. I'm just telling you straight up right now. Here's an article from CNBC what it says. You're not going to like it, but brace for impact. Okay. Want to raise happy, successful kids? Wait as long as possible to give them a phone, says a Yale expert. Halting smartphone use for children and young people until they're in the 8th grade comes with benefits, according to advocacy group. Wait until 8, including less risk of anxiety and depression, increased quantity and quality of sleep, more time for physical activity and outdoors. And by the way, you know what status says on the bottom? How many notifications teenagers get on their phones? 200 notifications a day. These are brains that are forming and trying to pay attention in school while their phones are going off, ding, ding, ding. So you can hate me all you want if you're watching this. If your mommy and daddy tell you can't have a smartphone till 8 years old, I fully support that message for you not to get that phone. You got plenty of other things to do. And later on, you can have a smartphone, do whatever you want to do when you're 18 years old or above. Maybe you get a phone that your parents can get a hold of it, but not a smartphone. You'll thank your mom and dad later. It's the whole concept of hate me now, love me later. That's what end up happening long term. But parents, this is deeply concerning. I got one more thought. I thought I was almost done with this. Parents, one more thing for you to be thinking about this. Kids are going to come home and they're going to say, but Johnny's got a cell phone, but Larry's parents bought him a cell phone. And Jackie said, how come your mommy and daddy make more money, don't buy you a smartphone? Your parents are cheap. Who gives a shit? I don't care. You can call me whatever you want. You're not raising my kids. I'm raising my kids. And it's my job as a leader to raise my kids, to give them an opportunity to be different than everyone else in the marketplace. Let everybody else do whatever they're doing. You don't. You lead your kids and be okay with that. I want to show you this next data. I don't know if it reveals anything, but just it's a data worth knowing about. U.S. states with the lowest rate of electronic bullying among students in the grades 9 through 12 as of 2019. Lowest is Georgia, then it's Florida, Nevada, Colorado, Texas, Rhode Island, Hawaii, New Mexico, Ohio, Arizona. One of the things we got to do as parents is to keep our kids busy. It's worth knowing about this. And the ones with the highest is New Hampshire, Alaska, Iowa, West Virginia, Michigan, Missouri, Kentucky, Maine, Montana, Arkansas. Our job is to keep them as busy as possible. So a lot of stats. But now you may be asking, Pat, what do I do about it? I'm a parent. I want to make some progress. How do I know? Is there any signs? Yes. Recognize the signs that your teen may be bullied. Not bullying. We'll do that in a minute as well. But that's being bullied. Number one, withdraw from family events and other social gatherings. They don't want to have dinner. They're going to their room. Christmas. They don't want to be around other people. They're constantly avoiding birthday parties. No, I'm good. That's a bad sign that maybe something's going on. You got to talk to them. Number two, sudden decline in performance at school. Number three, refusal to go to school or uneasiness about attending. Why not? What happened? Is there a reason? Reporting feeling ill to avoid going to school, and it's a constant repetitive behavior. New avoidance of going online. Now, signs your kid is bullying, not being bullied, avoids conversation about their online activities or social media use, has multiple social media accounts, switches screens on their computer suddenly when a parent or teacher is nearby, frequently uses their digital devices, becomes overly upset or irritated if their digital device is unavailable. And last but not least, before I tell you the story with my son, specific tips for parents. Number one, delay giving them a smartphone as long as possible and be okay with, I'm not everybody. Yeah, I'll get you maybe a phone. You know, some of the brands are out there. You can Google it and find out. I'm not giving you a smartphone anytime soon. 2, set clear rules and expectations for your children's internet use. 3, use parental controls on your computer and internet router to block inappropriate websites and to monitor your children's online activity. Talk to your kids about the dangers of online bullying and what they should do if they're bullied. And last but not least, teach your children how to report cyberbullying. Hey, T, question for you. I'm doing a video. I'm about to shoot a video right now about cyberbullying and the stuff that happens in school. I wanted to share this picture and this story of what happened that day. Are you okay if I tell the story?
Yes, I'm okay.
You're okay with that?
I'm okay.
You know what? I'm going to talk about how I'm weird and how you and I have that in common, but we're both comfortable now with the fact that we're a little bit different than everybody else.
I'm fine.
Okay. All right. Thanks, buddy. All right. Okay. Bye. So final thoughts before we wrap up. Last week, I'm having a conversation with one of my sons, and I said, hey, so do you ever miss Texas? Because I was in Dallas. I was, in Texas. Yeah, I do miss Texas. I said, why? He says, because some of the most important things in my life happen in Texas. Such as what? He says, do you remember that one day when I had a hard time understanding why some kids say you're different, you're weird, you're this, you're that? I said, yeah, what about it? He says, remember when you asked mommy to bring me to the house for you and I have a conversation together? I said, yeah. By the way, till today, if you look at my iPad, that picture is on my iPad as, one of the main pictures here, because this is he and I talking to each other. This is the day. And Jennifer took the picture. I didn't even know she took the picture until later on. She showed it to me. Here's what I told him. I said, hey, just so you know, my entire life, people thought I was weird in school because I was a dreamer like you. I thought about what if one day we can do X, Y, Z? What if one day we can build this? What if one day we can go here? I said, we're wired the same exact way. I said, unfortunately, when you're a kid, if nobody has this conversation with you, you think it's a problem. It takes normally 30 years to realize it's a big power and gift that God's given you. And if somebody doesn't talk to you about it as a man, guess what? You're going to think you're weird and different, which is an actual gift. But you won't find that out till you're 20, 25, 30 years old. And we had this moment together. I was like, man, I never thought about it that way before. A few months ago, we're in Bermuda. I took one of my kids out because he was dealing with something else. And we sat out there and we had a great conversation together for 30 minutes. And we had a breakthrough. Here's a challenge. Sometimes some people don't have a father figure in their lives. Like, man, I don't even have somebody to talk to about this. Bring it up to a coach or somebody else, a man that you respect, or a mom. Parents, your responsibility, our responsibility is to talk to them as much as possible about these issues, because many times, just like you and I were afraid to talk to our parents about it, they are as well. We got to create a safe space that these types of conversations can be had with no judgment, with nothing else being there, We're having conversations. Do I have your permission to ask you this? The more we're able to use these few words and have these important conversations with them will decrease the chances of somebody bullying them, and they'll be more aware when it's happening to them. And that's why I think everybody watching this, if you're still watching this at the end, make it a priority of yours to watch the movie Disconnect with your spouse. Then if you're comfortable, watch it with your kids. If you got value out of this video, give it a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. And if you've not seen the video I did on the loneliness epidemic, click here to watch the video. Take care, everybody. Bye-bye, bye-bye.
Whether he is
Okay, fathers. Patrick bid David. Thank you, brother. That video is 100% on point. And I just want to let you know, from one father to another father, I appreciate you, brother. Thank you for everything that you do. Fathers of daughters. That was a very, very deep video. And I wanted to share it with you because that's what I do at Girl Dad YouTube channel. I want to share a story with you about one of my daughters. My second oldest daughter, Jasmine, we call her Jazzy. She was a 7th grader at the time. And we had just watched, back when she was in 7th grade, there was a game that a lot of kids were playing. It was called the knockout game. And what a lot of these kids were doing, we had just watched a video about a month before. A lot of these kids, what they were doing is they would align themselves up against a wall at school or wherever they're at. They would hold their breath, and then one of their friends would push their chest and make them pass out and then catch them. Now, this is what's crazy. We had just watched something on ABC News or CNN, something like that, when Jazzy was a little girl, and we had discussed it. I'm a former state of Colorado juvenile probation officer, so I made sure I watched when I introduced all my daughters to videos regarding drugs, alcohol, and bullying. We watched all these videos together, and I answered their why questions, and I explained to them what their responsibilities were as little girls, that they have a responsibility. If a child is in a crisis where they're going to be hurt, they need to let an adult know. And this is what was crazy. So I get a phone call at work, and this is Jazzy. She's in 7th grade. She's in 7th grade when this happens. And I get a phone call at work, and I'm told that, hey, Mr. Martin, we have Jasmine in the office, and she just experienced some kids. Some of her friends were playing this game, and she came and reported to us. So when I went to the school, her middle school, to pick her up, Jazzy was a mess, and she was crying, and she was just like, Dad, I don't understand. Well, these are supposed to be my friends, and I just don't understand. And what I explained to Jazzy, I told her, I said, Jazzy, you had so much courage being able to go to an adult in the building and tell them what your friends were doing. I said, Jasmine, you saved a child's life today. And it made her feel better. And, we talked about it. And my daughter Jasmine is just a bundle of joy. She's all love. So we talked about it. And, one of the things I learned from being a probation officer is you always have to follow up with children, even if they're your own children, because that was a traumatizing experience for my daughter, right? So I made sure for a couple months down the road, I checked in with Jasmine every week just to make sure she was okay. And I explained to her how proud I was of her. Her mother explained to her how proud we are as parents of her. And just letting her know if it happens again, you need to do the exact same thing. So with my daughters, they understood the sense of urgency when it comes to having to speak with adults when other kids are trying to harm themselves. Now, it's not really a bullying situation, but it falls into the lines of bullying, because to talk a kid into holding their breath and to having them pass out and you supposedly catch them, that's just crazy, right? And that was the only situation with all my girls that ever happened to Jasmine. She's 29 years old today, and I'm sure she still remembers that. I haven't talked to her for years about that, but I was beyond proud of my daughter, and I spoke with other children regarding their responsibility to make sure that they keep their classmates safe. So this video by Patrick David, thank you, brother. It was on point. And fathers, I'm going to share information. I'm going to share it educationally and through instruction, because this is the only way we can get better as parents. So whether it's boys or girls, when there's information that I feel is necessary, I will bring it to my platform and I will share it with you fathers and all parents. Okay, we've got another video. Let's see here. So parents, I appreciate you. Fathers, you know I appreciate you. We just got to grind, fathers. It's not always going to be easy. But we have to make sure we have those relationships with our children so they will come to us. I was never worried about any of my daughters not ever coming to me when it came to situations that were going on at school. Because the one thing with my girls is I made sure, because of my experience as a state juvenile probation officer, when you sit down your children to speak with your children, you have to understand as a parent, you have to meet your child where they're at. That's the most important thing, meeting your child where they're at. Because as parents, what we want to do a lot of times, we just want to save our children. You know, we want to keep them protected and safe, and we don't want anything to happen to them. And we're always worried. We have different worries, right? But my advice to all parents is make sure when you're explaining things to your children, it's a question and answers and not you telling them. Make it a question and answers discussion. Because my experience of working with children for 30 years, that's how they learn. And that's where most kids are at. Because most kids are going to be scared. They're going to be nervous. A lot of times they're not going to know what to do. And they know when they come to their parents, something's going to get done. So we have to install in our children when they're little that safety is necessary for all children, for all human beings. And we have to teach them that. And as long as we teach them that, our children are going to be fine. And they'll always do what's in the best interest of themselves and look out for other children that may not have a voice a lot of times. Okay, fathers, here goes the next video.
As we near the end of another school year, administrators and teachers say they're concerned about ongoing problems with student behavior, conduct. But let's start with what we heard from teachers across the country.
My name is Joanna Riz. I used to say I used to worry about just a few kids. Now there's the opposite. It's probably just a few kids that I'm not about.
I'm a teacher in Las Vegas, Nevada. I'm seeing things like, students that are attacking other students, or they're throwing furniture at other students. In one instance, I had a student open up a pair of scissors that she put on my desk and threw them at my
is Dr. At Miami Northern Senior High School, many students are overwhelmed. They are going through a lot of different things. And unfortunately, many schools are not built to address those things.
My name is Jen Heater, and I am and senior English. So high school, and I believe around the country, is an extreme uptick in mental health issues with our students.
We're seeing that many students are more fearful, more wary of putting themselves out there, more anxious in general. And that anxiety can present itself in a number of different ways. It can look like unchecked anger. It can look like isolation.
The last couple of years have been very interesting. We've definitely seen a spike in behaviors. It could be anywhere from, hitting, biting, spitting, throwing furniture. And so at times it's a little unsafe in the classroom.
Many students may not be willing to dig a little deeper and kind of explore what they may be feeling, right? So it is easier to do something in the classroom to get kicked out, right? That way I'm getting what I want. I don't have to deal with that teacher. I don't have to deal with what I'm working through. So let me get kicked out. Let me leave this piece, right? But I do feel like the better option would be to get them to stay.
What we're not equipped to do is to identify students' needs when they have mental health issues such as anxiety, depression, bipolar disorder, and other things that normally do hit in the high school and middle school ages.
It's a shame because we're there to educate the future of America. That's what we want to do. And we're having a really hard time doing it with the behaviors that are presenting themselves.
I would suggest that our legislators respond to this by putting more money into training teachers. And I would ask the question, are we responsible for our students' mental health? If so, and if we're the ones who need to respond to it, then we need to be trained adequately to respond well, because a lot is hanging in the balance here.
In response to concerns about students' behavioral issues, including some violence, a number of states are now moving to change their laws, putting forward bills that empower teachers with greater disciplinary powers. That has raised more questions and concerns about the impact on students. Talia Gonzalez tracks all of this closely. She's a professor at the UC College of the Law in San Francisco. She joins me now. Professor Gonzalez, welcome and thanks for joining us. As you've been tracking, lawmakers in a number of states are now moving forward, proposing bills that make it easier to discipline students, remove students, including harsher penalties for younger kids. Before we get into the details of some of those bills, why are we seeing so many of those bills right now? What's the argument behind them?
I think the argument is exactly what you're hearing from the teachers, right? Which is about safety. The problem is that the argument is met with healthy school communities. And we have spent so much time moving past punishment and really thinking about what is in the best interest of educating our children. And we've forgotten in this moment, in this post-COVID reality, or if you can call it that, where our young people and our teachers are sitting at the front lines in these places of tension, they actually have to promote and build those positive school climates. So it's much easier to go for the tool that was in existence before and say, just get out. Right? We heard that as well, right? Before from teachers saying it's much easier to just leave the classroom. So it's all of that, right? It's the unwillingness to put money. It's a very short-term measure, and it's not thinking about how we're actually building safe and healthy schools.
Let me give a few specific examples here so folks know what we're talking about. In Arizona, for example, there's a bill that would lower the age students can be suspended to 5. So that now includes kindergartners. In Florida, teachers would have more authority to remove students who they deem disobedient or disrespectful. In Nebraska, teachers would be allowed to use force in the classroom to physically restrain students who they deem disruptive. On the spectrum of responses, are there disciplinary powers you think teachers should have and those they shouldn't?
Absolutely. Teachers need to be able to have safe and healthy classrooms, right? And I keep using those words together because those actually are the essential components of what we're talking about. But what teachers shouldn't be forced to do is to make these discretionary decisions in the moment that says you're disobedient, you're disrespectful, or you engaged in disorderly conduct, because so often those are coded for other types of behaviors, right? So the North Carolina law, for example, that also exists, includes inappropriate language and dress code violations. dress code violations and inappropriate language aren't the things that aren't keeping our schools safe or aren't making teachers feel like they can't teach students and children feeling like they can't be engaged in learning. So it's about a continuum of support, right? How are we thinking about multi-tiered interventions? What is it to turn to the evidence and say, where does positive behavioral interventions exist? Where do restorative practices exist? How do we put into practice what we know works to ensure that the social, the emotional, and the academic learning is happening?
What about the potential impact on students here? I mean, we know, given history and studies, that Black and brown students disproportionately face disciplinary measures when they're in school. What are you worried about the impact of this could be?
I'm just worried that the data's already been so disturbing. We know that non-white students, and particularly Black children, are disciplined more severely across every category. You know, just this year, Scientific American released a study that half of the 250 kids expelled from preschool, younger than age 5, were Black boys, right? And that nationally, preschool children are suspended more than once. And who are those children? Those are Black kids. And so we just have to have a real clarity that these offenses and the ways in which we're then pushing young people out of their schools lead to a whole set of lifelong consequences. So it's not just, oh, the disparities exist, the discipline gap exists, and ultimately a student decides to not come to school, stop engaging in the classroom. You know, the risk factor of missing 15 days of school for suspension means you are 7 times more likely to drop out, but that means that you will have less access to jobs, housing, participating in society voting, and even your life expectancy. And then, of course, I think there's so much evidence about entry into the juvenile adult systems. You know, Rice University's Education Research Consortium just released data that for every suspension a student faced, they're 7.5% more likely to have contact with the juvenile justice system. And who those young people are Black students, are Latinx students, and our Native and Indigenous students as well. But I also want to bring the fact that just in the context of race or in the context of gender, but students who are also experiencing learning disabilities, right? Mm-hmm. Our historical data, our current data shows us across all categories of discipline, suspensions, expulsions, referrals to law enforcement, it is students with disabilities who can lose as much as 3 times as much instructional time from discipline, and that's most acute for our Black students in particular.
Professor Gonzalez, dare I ask, what's the answer here? I mean, teachers need a way to be able to control and keep safe classrooms. We know students have behavioral issues after what they've endured the last few years. Budgets are finite. What can people do?
We look to exactly what we've been doing so far, right? There's been incredible investments over the last decade in what our whole child and multi-tiered systems of support. That's the academic, that's the behavioral, and that's the social and emotional, right? That's the evidence-based, trauma-informed, high-quality core curriculum. So what does that mean? Positive behavioral interventions have long-standing records of having positive outcomes. Social emotional learning, all in legislation as well. Restorative justice, all in legislation. So instead of the laws that we're talking about, we should be scaffolding up those and then also coupling those with investments in mental health services. Because when you have multi-tiered system interventions, you flip the script. You increase graduation rates, right? You increase academic achievement, you increase test scores, you increase grade completion, you engage students, they're less truant, they're coming to school, and you have positive climates. And that's when children thrive, and that's when they can learn.
All right, that is Talia Gonzalez, professor at the UC College of the Law in San Francisco, joining us tonight. Professor, thank you.
Thank you so much, I appreciate it.
Well, anger.
Okay, fathers, another great video. I want to kind of touch on what this professor was talking about, being a former dean of students. When she mentioned PBIS, that is Positive Behavioral Intervention Support Services. And pretty much what that is if you have a student that is coming to school, they may be delinquent, they may be facing a truancy petition, they may be facing mental health. You have a lot of those students that come to school every day. This is what walks through your door every day. This is what we had to deal with every day. The PBIS, we had a PBIS team. So that included all the deans of students. It included the social worker. It included the assistant principal of instruction. The principal was over the PBIS team, and we had the psychologist and the nurse involved. And pretty much what our jobs were collectively is if we had a student in crisis, one of us attended the student immediately once the crisis happened, and we were required to spend the entire day with that student, making sure that that student was going to be safe. So at the high school level, you have a little bit more resources than you do at the middle school level. I was a dean of students in middle school as well as high school. But at the high school level, we had 3 deans of students. I had the freshmen and sophomores. We had a dean of students for juniors and a dean of students for seniors only. We had about 1,800 kids at Montbello Senior High School. So I always wanted the younger kids because they were the most challenging. And being a former probation officer, that was right up my alley. So the PBIS team, Positive Behavioral Intervention Support Team, is necessary. Not every school has them. Also, I did restorative justice as well. So restorative justice is very, very effective. I may do a video on restorative justice and restorative justice practices maybe later down the road this summer sometime, just to give parents an understanding of exactly what is restorative justice and how it works in schools. But it's very, very effective as well. So fathers, once again, we have to have that relationship with our children, with our baby girls. We have to understand what they're going through, who their friends are. I've always said, when your child mood changes with your kids, those are normal, but you have to watch how their moods are changing. If they withdraw, that's an automatic sign. If they change friends, that's definitely an automatic sign. Our kids just don't change friends. And chances are, if they're changing friends, I'm going to tell you they're being bullied if they're changing friends, because they're trying to get around kids that they feel comfortable with and that can protect them. Okay? So that's important, fathers. We have to be paying attention. Being in the school district, working in K-12 education, I learned so much. Kids taught me more than I'll ever learn, more than I ever learned from adults. Kids teach you how to advocate for them. Kids teach you how to listen to them. Kids teach you how to be effective with them. So I feel blessed having 30 years of experience of working with children and parents, because it definitely helped me with my very own daughters. It wasn't difficult at all with my own girls. Okay, we have a couple more videos that are short, and I want to share them with you, fathers. Excuse me. Okay, let's see. This next video, Fathers of Daughters, is talking about, this is out of Cleveland, not Cleveland. This is out of Ohio. Ohio lawmakers are talking about paying their kids, paying middle school and high school kids to stay in school. It's interesting. I'll leave my comments for later, but this is definitely interesting, fathers. What do you think your thoughts would be to pay children to keep them going to school? I understand what the purpose is, and I understand what they're trying to do by doing something like this, but just watch this video and then, just process it. And I would love to hear your comments and tell me what you think about certain states paying their kids to attend school. All right.
Anger and frustration growing among Newport News teachers as they express safety concerns following the Rich Neck Elementary School shooting. Educators in that city say that it could have been prevented if their prior concerns hadn't been ignored. News 3's Leandra Head joins us now live in the studio. And Leandra, these teachers are fed up.
Oh, that is right, Kurt. Dozens of teachers actually spoke out saying that they are fed up about students' behavior in the classrooms and a lack of support from the school district and administration.
Where are mental health services? Not those 5 hours. What happened to we are on depression meds and in order to go to
video
work? We getting hit, punched, cursed.
I'll pull up the other video.
This
right
Newport
after.
News elementary school teacher says she's had enough.
You're not listening to us.
This comes after police say a 6-year-old shot his teacher inside of a classroom at Rich Neck Elementary School. The school district says they searched that student's backpack earlier in the day, but didn't find anything. One by one, teachers express what they believe needs to change to ensure safety. Many saying a lack of accountability and discipline is creating unsafe environments.
It was just a matter of time before something like this happened, to be honest. Teachers often joke about how students get sent to the office for a discipline problem, and they come back 10 minutes later with a snack and a pat on the back.
This Norwood Meadows elementary school teacher saying there is a misguided emphasis on attendance over the safety of children and staff.
The students are not punished because it would affect attendance, school ratings, and funding.
Teachers also feel their issues and concerns are not being listened to.
Ask any teacher in this school division why discipline incidents declined, and I have a feeling the response will be the same. Infraction numbers are down because incidents are not always officially reported. The message we are being given is that suspensions count against us for accreditation.
A bill filed last month would require the State Department of Education to establish a uniform discipline system for students. It would include a criteria for teachers to remove disruptive students from class while making the removal mandatory if the behavior is violent. Teachers say they want to be included in the discussion with school leaders on improving safety measures and discipline concerns. I spoke to school board safety expert Dr. Amy Klinger, who says accountability is vital.
And if schools do not enact consequences and do not do things that are preventative, then it is clearly going to make your school less safe.
Now, the Newport News School District released this statement saying in part, quote, "We listened intently and we are reflecting on each speaker's comments. We know our community wants action and we are determined to follow up on the recommendations and concerns we heard. The school board will take the necessary steps to restore the public's confidence in Newport News public schools, that is." I'm Leandra Head, News 3.
Let's get right to Fox.
Okay, fathers, another video on discipline. And it's just interesting. I know when I was the dean of students, one of the things with school districts is, and what a lot of parents have to understand when you're talking about safety for every student, the goal of every district is to ensure that every child and every student is protected and safe, right? And a lot of the resources, a lot of school districts, they don't have access to. They just don't. Mental health services, they don't. And they're trying to do the best that they can do. And I know a lot of times for a lot of parents, that's just not comforting enough. The students that are being disruptive, if they're bringing weapons to school, they're dealt with immediately, and they will be, most of the time, they're going to be expelled from the district in which they're attending. So there's a lot behind the scenes that goes on. I know being a dean of students, being an administrator, being in an administrative role, the high school I was at, we had an incredible team. We were all on the same page. We didn't have any weak links, and we just didn't have a lot of issues because we built relationships with kids. So I know a lot of teachers get frustrated because of the behaviors of a lot of these children. If a lot of these teachers would just build relationships with their kids at the beginning of the school year, they wouldn't have to be worried about kicking them out of class. So I would go back and forth with a lot of teachers because a lot of teachers just didn't get that part of it. And that's not the only solution, but there's many variables that are involved when it comes to student behavior. And when you're a dean of students over discipline, you have to look at everything before you can make a decision. If there's not a violent act taking place, chances are that child's being sent back to class. Those are for the numbers, and every school has to meet their numbers. That's the bottom line. So it's not a solution a lot of times, but these students have to be in class. And I can tell you, I'm not blaming teachers, but a lot of teachers, they don't know how to build relationships with their students. They just don't. So it's a tough situation when you're a dean of students. I can tell you, it wasn't easy. And we did the best that we could. Had great relationships with all the teachers at my high school, and we worked collectively together on a lot of different things. I was able to implement a lot of interventions that I brought from the criminal justice system as a former state juvenile probation officer. And a lot of teachers were open to the idea of what I brought to the table. So very effective, and got a lot accomplished. Okay, fathers, this next one is on state of Ohio wanting to pay students. Let me get it ready here. Sorry about that. I had the wrong one. Give me a second here, fathers. Okay.
Show up for
Okay, fathers, here we go with this next video.
show up for class and get paid. That's at the center of a bipartisan bill in the Ohio House right now. To try, they're hoping to reduce the number of kids who don't show up for class.
But as you can imagine, very controversial, and its sponsors spoke about it today. WLWT News 5's John London is here with how it would work. Are we going to have NIL deals for kids taking science classes here?
That's a pretty good question. They're not sure how this is going to work, Mike, but they want to test it out and see. So a couple of pilot programs are being set up, one to boost, or would be set up, one to boost attendance, the other to boost graduation rates. Now, interested districts would have to apply. Only 4 to 8 urban and rural schools would be selected. Only kindergarten and 9th grade students would be eligible at first. If it pays off, so to speak, it could spread to other grades.
The notion of paying kids to show up for class might strike some as rash, costly, and ridiculous, but not to this 19-year-old Don South senior and his circle of friends.
Oh, they'll be all in. They'll be all in. We had a conversation a little about, well, I said like a month ago about this, because the winter time was coming up, and people was like they didn't want to show up because they gonna be cold, and other kids ain't got coats and stuff to be prepared for the winter. So majority of them just don't come to school.
Those last few words illustrate a nationwide problem. In the previous school year, the chronic absentee rate in Cincinnati public schools was nearly 46%. Since August through the first quarter of this year, it's 38.5%. Incentives like free pizza and Visa gift cards have been tried without long-lasting success. Are direct cash payments worth a try?
You think it'll be a motivation?
It'll be a motivation, yeah. Because what kid doesn't want money?
Students with at least 90% attendance would receive roughly $50 a month with extra cash incentives upon graduation.
We're not teaching them to read if they're not there. We can't teach them math if they're not there.
Democrat Dunny Isaacson believes whatever side of the spectrum you're on, it's not relevant, especially if you consider it a waste of money.
It is so much less expensive to invest in making sure that kids are getting to school than it is to pay the costs for when kids don't go to school.
From Columbus, Republican Bill Seitz is co-sponsoring House Bill 348.
In 7th grade social studies, our teacher used to say, money isn't everything, kids, but always remember this, it's way ahead of whatever's in second place.
Savion Lively has a winter coat and a show-up mindset.
Ready to learn, get my education, and graduate. Take on the real world.
Statewide, nearly a third of Ohio students are chronically absent. CPS not commenting about House Bill 348, which was introduced this afternoon. And to those who ask why pay students for something they should be doing anyway, Isaacson and Seitz answer because nothing else has worked. John London, WLWT News 5.
Okay, fathers of daughters, what are your thoughts on that? Paying children to go to school. Are we letting parents off the hook, regardless of your political views? Are we letting parents off the hook by even suggesting to pay a child to attend class and to be to school on time? You heard what that young man said about a lot of the kids can't afford clothing to keep them warm, coats, jackets. Interesting. Very interesting. I'm going to do another live stream on this, specifically talking about paying kids to go to school sometime this summer. But just think about that, fathers of daughters. What are your thoughts on the possibility of students being paid to get them to come to school? All right, we have one more video, fathers, and then we're going to wrap up this live stream. Give me a second here. Okay, this next video, fathers, we're going to be talking about California has passed law requiring media literacy in K-12 education. So, interested with your thoughts on this.
I'm Olivia Gonzalez-Bridge, your community reporter in Arroyo Grande. From local high school teachers to Cal Poly professors to everyone in the community I've spoken to are on the same page, telling me they have to question everything they read online and are hopeful that students are able to acquire this skill as well. Distinguishing fact from fiction has become an increasingly common struggle for many people.
It's even difficult for me, and I'm kind of a news junkie, for me to discern what is real and what's not real.
I'm always questioning what I'm looking at.
But it's a challenge, especially among younger generations. A Stanford study reveals that 82% of middle school students struggle to distinguish advertisements from news stories. However, a new California law aims to make sure students are able to do so by reducing media literacy lessons in 4 core subject areas: math, science, history, and English language arts. The push for media literacy isn't exactly new. Groups like Media Literacy Now have been championing it for over a decade.
We found that 84% of respondents to our survey think that media literacy should be required in K-12 schools.
Despite the demand, Erin McNeil, CEO and founder of Media Literacy Now, says only 18 states are making moves to bring media literacy into their schools. And both high school and college educators agree it could benefit society.
I think that starting earlier will be a benefit.
But it's not just a school thing.
This isn't just something for elementary school kids or high school kids to be aware of. Everybody should be savvy media consumers.
Cal Poly journalism professor Brady Teufel defines media literacy as being able to interact with various platforms and various media outlets in an intelligent way, and that it's more important now than ever before.
Younger kids are exposed to information online, and they don't really have a credible way or an effective way to discern what's true and what's not.
Updates to schools' curriculum are expected to happen when the new year starts, once changes are approved by the Board of Education.
I think it's very, very important for the young people to take something like that.
In Arroyo Grande, Olivia Gonzalez-Britt, KSPY News.
Okay, fathers. That was another live stream. I feel good about it. This was a good one. Fathers, thank you for attending. And like I said, fathers, feel free to participate, share comments, subscribe, like, share my videos. I'd appreciate it. The more fathers that get exposure, the better off we're all going to be. So K-12 education, very interesting, fathers. And as you can see with the videos that I shared with you today, it's going to be a challenge. It's going to be a challenge in school. It's going to be a challenge out of school. just as fathers, it's going to be a challenge. So we have to remain diligent and vigilant fathers. And we have to make sure that we are on the same page with our wives. We are on the same page with the mothers of our children, whether we are married or divorced or a single father. We have to be on the same page because all of our children need both parents in order for them to become successful. Fathers can't do it by themselves and mothers can't do it by themselves. Both parents are needed for the balance of our children. All right, fathers, this has been the live stream. I'm out until next week. I'll holler at you. Peace, blessings, much love. Be safe this week. Keep them baby girls safe. Keep your kids safe. And we'll hook up next week. All right, fathers. Thank you very much. I'm out.